We will never try to silence you. We will try to persuade you and actually talk to our fellow citizens. And there is, of course, no greater censorship than when Kamala Harris says that those of us who want a secure and strong southern border are racists, are bad people for daring to want to protect our countries and have safe communities. That is a terrible, terrible disgrace. I've never in my life seen an American leader attacking the citizens of her own country for daring to voice an opinion about Kamala Harris's failures. And that's exactly what she does. So my message to Kamala Harris is there is nothing compassionate about letting the Mexican drug cartels ransack our country. There is nothing compassionate about flooding Pennsylvania communities with fentanyl. There is nothing compassionate about letting the American southern border be open. We are not bad people for wanting to secure that border. You're a bad person for opening that border in the first place. All right, we're not done quite yet, but let's take a few questions from the reporters. Let's start with the gentleman here in the tie, and then we'll leave you with some final thoughts before we hit the road. We're going to Harrisburg after this. Sir.
Senator Vance, welcome back to Erie County, Pennsylvania.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Now good to talk to you again, Senator. What is it as you stand in front of Erie County voters asking for their vote? What can you unequivocally promise them you and President Trump will bring them if they send you to the White House?
I appreciate the question. What I promise that we will unequivocally bring you is, first of all, the basic principle that the American president ought to look after the interests of American citizens first. That is the principle that underlies President Trump's entire approach to government. But specifically, the way that we're going to put that into action is, I guarantee you, people ask me, when is Donald Trump going to start to secure the border? And I said, on or about January 20th, 2025. That is going to be our first priority, is getting to work to secure that southern border. The second thing that we will do is we will unleash the great engine of American prosperity. That's Pennsylvania energy workers. We're going to make it easier to drill, to develop resources, to build pipelines in the United States of America, because when we lower energy costs for Pennsylvania families, we lower the cost of everything and create great American prosperity. So those are going to be the two big priorities, but there's going to be a lot more, and I'm telling you, it's going to be fun, but most importantly, it's going to be great for the American people to have a president who actually thinks their interests come first, and that's what we're going to fight for. Thank you.
I'm Jacob Brooks from Erie News Now. This is your second campaign stop in Erie. I'm wondering, why did you decide to come back, and why is Erie County a focus of the Trump and Vance campaign?
That's right. And I love you. Look, first of all, I love Erie, Pennsylvania, especially this time of year. You guys look outside, it is beautiful. It is beautiful in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania this time of year. But Erie, Pennsylvania in particular really reminds me a lot of the place that I grew up. And so I think it's a good place to make the fundamental Donald Trump campaign message that if we get back to common sense policies, we can rebuild Pennsylvania manufacturing, we can rebuild American prosperity in the process. Look, we made this decision 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Our leaders did it, and I hate to say it, sometimes it was even Republicans who said we didn't need to make our own stuff anymore. So what's going on today? Right now, China is 32% of manufacturing GDP. America is 18% of manufacturing GDP. Many of the pharmaceuticals, many of the drugs that we put into the bodies of our children are manufactured by countries that don't even like us very much. And importantly, if you don't have self-reliance as a country, if you don't make your own stuff, if you don't grow your own food, then you are not a free nation anymore. And I want America to be a free country, not dependent on the Communist Chinese Party. And I think And I believe, sir, that Erie, Pennsylvania stands to benefit as much as anyone from the golden age of prosperity that we're going to unleash, in part because Erie, Pennsylvania has suffered under the policies of Kamala Harris for a very long time. So we're going to do better. We're going to do better by Erie. We're going to do better by the whole Commonwealth. But importantly, if we don't rebuild the engine of American prosperity, if we don't rebuild American manufacturing and unleash American energy, it's not just Erie that's going to suffer, it's everybody, and I want our country to be great and prosperous and powerful again. Thank you, sir. How you doing?
Hello, I'm Jade. I'm with Jet 24, the ABC affiliate here.
Thank you.
In this final stretch, what Erie-specific audience are you trying to reach this second time around, and why?
Well, you know, the first event that we did in Erie, we did with our truckers. And the reason that was so important is because, you know, one, truckers actually keep this country running. We've got almost 3 million truckers in the United States of America. And again, if you think about how much of the things that we buy, the things that we use, if the truckers are paying more for everything, if the truckers are going bankrupt, if the truckers are unable to do what they need to do, then all of us are suffering in the process. That's why we came the first time. I think why we wanted to come today was, one, to highlight a couple of President Trump's specific policies. Number one, like I said, they're going to cut taxes on working families and penalize corporations that ship American jobs overseas. We wanted to highlight that. We wanted to highlight the no taxes on tips and no taxes on overtime policy, because there are a lot of folks here working a lot of overtime. I know there are, and they deserve a break as much as anybody in this country. They're going to get it when Donald Trump is the next president. But the final point, ma'am, is again that Erie, Pennsylvania, I think is reflective of what this country could be with better leadership. And unfortunately, how many people have been left behind by Kamala Harris's policies. And let me just make one more observation. This was actually not too far from Erie, Pennsylvania, when I met a woman who told me she was a retiree, her husband was about to retire, and she told me that for 40 years, in good times and bad, she and her husband would do steak night on Friday. And I'm not talking about going to a fancy restaurant and getting a steak. I'm talking about going to the grocery store and grilling out and having that be their special thing, she and her husband, for 40 years. And I think all of us would say it's these little family rituals that actually make life worth living. So for 40 years, in good times and bad, they did steak night every Friday night. And the year that they stopped it was last year, because under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's policies, steak got too expensive. They were helping take care of their grandkids, and so they just couldn't afford to do steak night every Friday night. And I think to myself, what a tragedy and what a disgrace it is that in the world's greatest country, we have American families that are giving up on the rituals that give their life meaning because Kamala Harris is not doing her job. You know, I grew up in a family, and I'm sure there may be even some families in this room who come from similar circumstances where when it got really cold, and it gets really cold in Ohio and Pennsylvania in the winter, sometimes we didn't have enough money to turn on the heater. So my grandmother, who raised me, would say, you know what, we're going to throw an extra few blankets on the bed tonight, and that's how we're going to get through this particular cold winter night. I happen to believe that we have such abundant energy resources here that whether you're rich or poor, if you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to turn on the heating in the dead of a cold winter night. I believe, especially for our young families, that if you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to own a stake in your own community, in your own future, in your own country. But that's becoming harder and harder because housing prices are so unaffordable that a lot of American families feel like they can't afford a home, and a lot of them actually can't afford a home. I believe, my friends, I really believe, and I've learned over the last 3 months, I've gotten such an appreciation for the generosity of spirit of the American people, for the talent and greatness of everyday normal American citizens. We've got the best country in the world, the most beautiful natural resources. We have got everything that we need right here in the United States of America. But there is one thing that is broken about this country, and it is the leadership of Kamala Harris. So I'd ask the people in this room to get out there and make sure that we don't have more of the same. Make sure that we don't get more of Kamala Harris's high inflation. Make sure that we don't get more of Kamala Harris's war on American energy and American manufacturing. Make sure that the people in our country who are canceling steak night and not turning on the heat, that they have an opportunity at a better life. I believe the only way that they're going to get it is to fix the broken leadership in Washington, D.C., and to put Donald J. Trump back in the White House. Let's make it happen. God bless you guys, and thank you for having me.